Hey there guys, it's early in the morning and I've got to drink a cup of coffee, but we're taking on Granger Lake today. So let's break this guy down, and I'm going to actually be doing some crappie fishing here at Granger. And it's been about 3 years since I fished it before I learned anything about breaking down lakes. So today I want to show you how to do that. And I'm not much of a crappie fisherman, but I want to learn how to do it. So let's do a little bit of research. I typed in how not to get skunked again at Granger Lake, and look what comes up. Fish attractors in Granger Lake. So let's click on that. Oh, look at there. Looks like the Texas Parks and Wildlife has some fish attractors they dropped in. So they gave us, looks like about 10 of them. Designed to attract crappie and other fishes that seek cover. Was added to this lake in 2017. We can go into the system and input these values, or the other way you can do it is just download the files. That's what I did already. I went down here to Granger and downloaded the GPX file, or the KML that you can import into Google Maps. So the high level view is there's a dam on the east side of the lake, and it's fed mainly by the San Gabriel River. And a lot of people actually fish down here for white bass during the spring when they come running. I've done that before, but I've really never fished the lake. So for crappie fishing, that's all new to me. I'm going to employ the same lake breakdown techniques that I do for white bass, for largemouth bass. We know that the riverbed is the highway of travel for bait, and therefore all the fish that feed on that bait. So let's go back into Google Maps. Texas Park and Wildlife file that I downloaded, the KML, imports directly into Google Earth. And so it looks like they dropped some at some pretty key points, but without knowing what's out here, just looking at a lake like this, how do you know where to go? So what I did was I just did some overlays from the Navionics onto here so that I can kind of see what's happening. So it looks like, let's start with the north end of this lake here. Looks like they've got a brush pile here. They call it brush pile number 8. Just running right along the channel. It looks like they dropped it about 13, 14 feet deep or something like that. So I'll definitely be, my strategy is to come out here and just scan those brush piles. Yes, everybody knows about them, but not everybody fishes them, and they reload pretty well. So I'm going to go out there with my live scope and just look at them. Let's see. And along the dam, there's another one here. Looks like point number 7. The riverbed kind of runs along here. Maybe it curves around here a little bit. So that might be a good point right up against the dam there. Same thing after the intake. They dropped in a brush pile here, number 6. So it looks like some sort of a point that comes off here or something like that. So that might be a place I'll check out. So I'll just do a quick drive-by with live scope and see what's happening. And then there's one here that's pretty interesting. There's number 4 that they dropped in. Looks like a long point that comes off of here, long shallow point, and then a bend in the creek channel and a bend in the old river channel right here. So that looks interesting with a point. It's got all 3 elements there, so I'll definitely check out that one. My strategy when I come out here, knowing that Granger Lake is fed primarily by the San Gabriel, which is coming from the southwest side here. I'm going to spend a lot of time going down this creek, and I know this time of year that the crappie are already running up the creeks in the shallows, and so that's my strategy. So I'm going to come out here and hit some of these along the dam, hit some of these that we just talked about. Let's map some more points. So I've already done that. So I looked through here. I said, okay, well, let's start at the north end. Of course, the primary wind direction is going to be from the southeast. So I'm going to try to pick some at different places so that in case it gets windy, we can protect ourselves. So let's look at here. Why did I pick Granger 1? Well, remember, we have 3 elements we're trying to get to. So this is a creek channel that runs off of here, intersects into the main river channel, and then we have a point that comes off of here. So right there, it's got 3 elements, and so I'm just going to come up to this point and do some S patterns along here and see if I can find some other brush piles. I understand that a lot of people drop brush piles here in this lake because it's such a crappie lake. So hopefully with my live scope and electronics, I can go find them. And if you're paying attention to SK's Crappie channel, he's been doing some videos on finding these. So I'm just going to follow his lead there. And then Granger 3, so I found another one here. And why is this good? Well, if you look here, you've got some humps that are just sitting high, and then you got the river channel that kind of runs along here and bends right around here, and you got a hump or a point that comes off here. So I'll be doing some S patterns along here, this point, and on this other side, and just checking different depths to see where the fish are at. Let's move down here to this side of the dam. So the river channel runs along here, and it bends around this way a little bit, and then there's a creek intersection. And if you're paying attention to SK's videos, SK's telling you that even a small creek, it doesn't have to go real far, that just a channel here intersecting a main river channel with a point that comes off, a shallow point comes off and drops off into this intersection. This is another good area. So I'll be doing some S patterns here to look for some brush piles. And then exactly the same thing with Granger 5 point here. There's a creek that comes off of here. So there's an intersection between the river channel, the creek, and then there's a point that comes off to here. So I'll be spending some time here looking in the flooded timber, and also see if there's any brush piles there. And my strategy is just to spend time on the San Gabriel side. So I'm just going to continue up this creek to see if there's any structure that hold fish. So again, right here is where the riverbed bends, and then you got a point that comes off of here, and then there's a structure that they dropped on the back side of this. Looks like a fishing pier or something like that. So I may stay away from that, just depending on what's there. I don't actually know what's there, but I could spend some time out here looking in between this drop off and this bend and this other bend. So a couple of intersections there and a drop off. So that looks like a pretty decent area. Looks like some other people have marked fish on there too. Again, let's continue up the creek. And of course, I'm probably missing a lot of areas here, but I just hit some areas that were pretty obvious. So let's look here, point number 7. So what do we see here? We got a few elements going on. We've got a river channel that bends around, goes like this, bends, and then we have basically another creek that comes off here and splits off into 2 creeks. So an intersection point here, a river channel that bends along here, and then of course a shallow area or a hump that comes off. And so I'll spend a little bit of time here, see if I can find some brush piles and that whole fish. Let's move along up the river some more, up the San Gabriel. And so what you see from the high level view, again, is a bend in the river channel, and then basically a big flat area with some humps along here that kind of drops off into this area. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time here around this big bend and a curve and a flat area that drops off. So just kind of wanted to see what's out here. I'll spend about 10 minutes just scanning with my live scope to see if I can find any structure. And then if I need to go upstream some more, I'll go up to here to Granger 9, and let's see what I've picked here. So a bend in the flooded timber area. So there's a bend in the channel with a point that comes off of here. So I'll just do a little bit more scanning here, see if I can find anything. Again, this is my first time fishing this, so I really don't know what's out here. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time scanning. And again, if you pay attention to what SK tells you, he spends a lot of time driving around, marking. And I get the feeling that's what I'll be doing on this Saturday. Is driving around these Granger points and waypoints, and just marking timber, marking brush piles that show there's fish in there. And then if I really needed to, if I haven't found anything and I needed to go here, I don't really know what's here. I don't really know if I can navigate into here or not. But if I can, I'll just go up here and start hitting, going up to San Gabriel as far as I can in my boat. I draft about 1.5 feet. So if it starts getting a little too shallow, I won't come back here. But if I can come back here, again, same thing. So anyway, so that's my strategy. And some of you may notice, well, I totally eliminated this whole western part of this lake. Yes, you know, for the first time I'm going to go there, I'm just going to pick an area, and I know that that's the main river branch of it, and so I'm just going to go down it. And if I find nothing here on that day, the next time I come back, I might do another strategy where I hit this part of the lake. But for today, for Saturday, I'm just going to focus on one area of the lake and see if I can find some crappie in there. So anyway, hopefully this Saturday when I get out there, I have a good strategy on hitting some of these points that intersect with some of the Texas Parks and Wildlife structures. And I'll show you how I use my live scope to find out there's fish here, there's brush piles with fish on it, and then I'll show you how I drop down and try to fish for them. So wish me luck. I'm not much of a crappie fisherman, but I'm watching a lot of videos from SK, and there's a lot of good crappie fishermen out there that I'm just following and just trying to follow their methods and see if I can get into them. Well, hopefully we don't get skunked again today. Not today.